RGM can be a little bit evil. Last weekend, our group got together for a marathon session to start a new campaign in a new system. Upon arrival, we were all given copies of the only war source books, and told to build a regiment, then build grunt-level characters, then make up a few backup characters. Now, the thing to note here is that RGM runs what we refer to as high mortality games. In our several-year-long D&D game, so many PCs died that our GM actually appears on the Hitler scale of death measurement. And, since we were all familiar with the nature of a guardsman's life, each of us made a bunch of backups and didn't get too attached to any of our characters as we wrote them. No special snowflakes here. Our regiment was mustered, our characters met and trained, and we were deployed to fight some orcs. We learned the system in a few skirmishes, and commiserate when one or two characters rolled poorly or fucked up and bit the dust. Then we were marched out to the trenches, given our piece of the line, and the battle started. We had expected some sort of priority mission. We had expected to be the heroes who went in behind the enemy lines, or dispatched to save a key position, or lead the valiant charge. Instead, we were put in a bloody trench and told to hold the line. The orcs came, and we killed them. The orcs came again, and we killed them again. The orcs came yet again, and we killed them yet again, but now we were low on ammo. The orcs came again, and some of us died. The orcs came once more, and this time they brought a tank with them, and so the rest of us died. Except for me. I ran. Our first session ended there, with our first set of characters dead in the trenches. We agreed it was a proper introduction to the life of a 40k guardsman, and then got ready for the next day's session, where we were expected to finally be sent on our mission. The second session started with us watching my character's execution by the commissar. Then we were put back in the same bloody trench, and told to hold the line. We did better this time. We actually held out long enough for fresh ammo and reinforcements to show up. But in the end, we still died. Then we brought up new characters, and we did it again in another part of the trenches. Then again. Then again. We were rolling up new characters between turns now, either to bring in as reinforcements, or for when we had to start up as a new unit. Very rarely we would survive long enough to be rotated to the rear, or take a non-fatal injury and get evac'd. Usually we all died. Finally, after 3 in-game days and something like 100 PC deaths, we were told to charge. We bitched hard when we heard this. It was a fucking death sentence. Our characters had actually done well this time. We were all still alive, and our ammo levels were good. We knew we could have held out much longer in our nice safe trenches. Our GM asked us if we wanted to lodge our complaints in character with the commissar, and so we shut up and we charged. We died like fucking animals. We fought on the left flank of the charge, then on the right. Then we got to play our first armored characters in the center. When the charge failed, we played as a basilisk crew covering the retreat. Then our regiment was rotated off the front. Our regiment had lost a third of its strength in that first engagement. Out of over 100 PCs, about 10 lived, and 5 of those were artillerymen who never saw the enemy. We were shown the battle map. We were shown where our squads held or failed. We were shown how our charge weakened the enemy for the fresh, and much more valuable, reserve troops to come up and break them. We were given a summary of the next few months of light skirmishes and mustering, and then we were sent into battle against traitor guardsmen. We were taking a city this time, and once more our regiment acted as the cannon fodder. We secured and pushed, and secured and pushed, and died, and died, and died. We decided we would take the orcs back any day. At least with them, it was obvious who the enemy was, and their snipers and heavy weapons teams were nothing compared to what we were fighting here. We were higher level this time, and better at the game. But still, we died in droves, leaving only a few PCs alive when our regiment was stood down while a veteran regiment took the lead. Once again, we got to see the nice little map of our progress, and we got a warm, fuzzy feeling in our hearts when we saw how our stubborn defense of a single building had crippled an enemy advance. But we were exhausted. Our DM pressed us to play fast and make new characters faster. We would roll up little Jimmy Johnson, who lied about his age to enlist, and then 15 minutes later we would have him bleeding out in a pile of rubble. It drained us. We were actually glad to take the evening off from playing and just watch movies and shit. The final day of our marathon start with more orcs, but this time we won. That's not to say we didn't still die like frogs in a blender, but we fucking won. We pushed them out of their barricades and hounded them across the plains when they routed. I played a gunner in a salamander tank during the chase, and I mowed down greenskins like ugly blades of grass. We partied like champs in the bumfuck town we liberated, and then we settled in for a few months of boring garrison duty before we got redeployed. Then we fought some Tyranids. It was only a splinter fleet, so we actually had a chance, but it was still hell. Our regiment was defending an evac point on some grassy agricultural world, and it was trench work again. We burned off the grass to clear lines of fire. We dug ourselves into the rich soil, set up the heavy weapons, and watched the edge of the burn area like hawks. Trigger-happy hawks, as it turns out. We ended up failing a spot check, and so we killed the first few retreating planetary defense forces to come through the grass. When the Tyranids came, it was ridiculous. We mowed down wave after wave of gaunts, but unlike orcs, Tyranids don't lose morale and break. They just keep coming as fast as you can kill them. We stopped using actual dice after a while just so we could roll combat faster. The bastards in command, i.e. our GM, had decided to do a collapsing defense, where we fought until the front trench was collapsing, and then we shelled the bejesus out of it while the survivors retreated. We lost something like 20 PCs to our own goddamn shells, but it really did work out pretty well, at least until we ran out of ground to give. All the civvies were out. It was just a few regiment of guard crammed into a spaceport, completely surrounded by the swarm, killing them off as fast as possible, and hoping that either reinforcements or evac would come down before ammo ran out. Things started to get bad when the higher forms of Tyranids started appearing. Gaunts and gargoyles are bad enough, but it was when the warriors showed up that we started taking serious casualties. However, the evac shuttles had started to ferry men up, and we had some actual air support. Unfortunately, our regiment was going to be the rear guard. The end was in sight, and morale was holding up well. Right up until we encountered a lictor brood. I hate lictors. I really fucking hate them. We played 3 backline squads in a row, and each one was torn to bloody shreds by those sneaky bastards without us landing a single kill. We started to rout, but our commissar and his guards went into the breach and killed one of them and shot the regiment back into position. Our evac finally came, and what was left of our regiment started the final retreat. There were a few valiant last stands, but most of us got into the shuttles. Our final squad had just boarded and was taking off when the air interdiction broke down, and Tyranid air units started attacking the shuttles. We were equal parts pissed and terrified as our GM described shuttle after shuttle being destroyed. The regimental commander's bird was nailed early. So were the bigger shuttles with the vehicles in them. He didn't say who was in most of the other shuttles, he just rolled his dice and removed them from the board as they fell. It was heartbreaking. Finally, there was only one shuttle left, and even though the Tyranid flyers swarmed it, none of their shots seemed to hit, and it started to climb out of the atmosphere. Then we were away. The flyers broke off, and that one shuttle was headed for its fleet transport, free and clear. Inside the shuttle, our last set of characters was trying to figure out what was going on. There were about 50 guardsmen crammed into a 20-man shuttle, and everyone was trying to figure out what was happening. Everyone had heard the Tyranid flyers, and everyone had heard when we hit space. The guardsmen close to the cockpit relayed what they could overhear from the pilot's radio, so everyone knew that the other shuttles had been attacked, but no one was sure exactly what had happened. In any case, everyone was happy to be alive, and looking forward to getting off the crowded shuttle when the shuttle stopped. The guardsmen near the cockpit relayed that they were being redirected to a different transport. When the shuttle docked, and everyone piled out, we found ourselves in a completely empty loading bay. We were ordered via the speaker system to form up by rank for inspection, and at this point our GM gave us a list of the guardsmen who were on the shuttle. Every single PC who had survived a battle had been on the shuttle, along with a few other grunts. All 37 of our beloved characters had lived, with the exception of the artillery crew we played, but fuck those guys. They were a bunch of team-killing fucktards. We formed up, and after a bit of waiting, the doors opened, and a few squads of stormtroopers marched in and instructed us to drop our weapons. There was a bit of an argument at this point, until the captain of the stormtroopers pulled out an inquisitorial rosette and told us that we were currently guests of the Order Xenos. After we were done pissing ourselves and disarming, an acolyte and a team of medics entered. We were informed that our regiment had been disbanded, we were all officially dead, and that we would be subject to scan for gene-stealer infection. At this point, our GM ended the session, handed us a couple of copies of the Dark Heresy rulebook, and a list of our surviving PCs, with all the filler grunts crossed off. He then told us to pick out characters for the next game. So, yeah. That's how our GM does backstories. The motherfucker.